All right, let's talk about artist consistency. Artists struggle so much with consistency, and this is something I struggle with for a very long time. So tell me if you relate to this. You have an idea, you've got some creative impulse going, and it's building up, but you don't have an outlet for it because you're busy and you're doing all this other stuff. And then it reaches this point and it spills over, and then you suddenly find time to move everything out of the way, get your materials out, and either paint or draw, sing a song, write a song, whatever it might be. And you have this, you're in this inspiration, it feels so good, you're just expressing yourself and all these ideas come out. And then you're like, I'm back. I'm going to do this like every day. I'm going to be consistent. I'm going to actually really do it this time. And then 3 days later, the consistency's gone. A week later, you've forgotten that it even happened, and you're just back to some other life where you're not being creative and, you're just going about your business. It just fizzles out. So tell me if that sounds familiar to you, because that was me like all the time. So this is the artist stop-start cycle of creativity. And so what is really happening here is, as artists, we have this thing that we want to say. There's this thing inside us that we want to voice it. We want to bring it out in the world. But it's actually like a suppressed emotion. So, in this world where we know a bit more about not suppressing our emotions and we're told to express our emotions, our creativity is a similar kind of thing where we actually have to express this thing. Otherwise, it builds up. Like if you think of someone who is constantly suppressing their anger, they have no boundaries, and it gets to this point and then it just explodes and then they just come out and they're angry. People are like, what's going on here? The same happens with creativity. It's this thing inside of us that we want to express. It needs somewhere to go. But because we don't have the habit of being creative, and we have creative blocks, and we have all this other stuff, all this mindset stuff that gets in the way, inner critic, we don't have the perfect space, all that stuff. It kind of just gets held in, and then at some point it just has to come out. And that's where we're like, right, we'll get this out of the way, and we do the thing. And then we express that, and then we're like, but then it just goes back to zero. And we're like, hang on, I'd actually like to keep doing this if I can. So the way that I think about this like creative impulse is that we have something to say, and we want to be able to say that consistently. So if you imagine if you were going to talk, but you only spoke when you had perfectly formulated exactly what you wanted to say, and that's the only time that you spoke, that you talked, you would say almost nothing your entire life, because you'd be like, okay, I got to get this perfect. I need to find the right time. I need to figure out exactly how to say this thing I want to say. But as I'm doing right now, I'm just talking. It's just coming out. It's just flowing out because I want to express this idea to you. If I waited to get this perfect, I would never make this video. You'd never hear it. And hopefully it's, giving you some kind of value, inspiring you to be more consistent in your art. Anyway, off topic. So a similar thing is true for your creative practice. Most artists wait for inspiration. They think that overflowing of creativity is inspiration, where really it's like desperation to get this thing out of you. So professional artists don't wait for inspiration. Hobbyists wait for inspiration. Professional artists just get in and do the work. So what that means is showing up to do your creative work consistently. So how do you do that? There's a couple of different things, but basically the easiest way is to set up a very simple daily practice. And I've talked about this before, and when I work with artists, when I coach and mentor, this is like a compulsory thing to do a daily practice. But it's not about the amount. It's not about doing 5 hours a day. It's actually about building up the consistency and the repetition of it more than the amount that you do. Having a daily practice really is about building the habit. It's not about even creating artwork. It's really about you are the artwork, and you're building this consistency and this habit within yourself. So as a real practical little tip here, you create a daily practice that has every day of the week at the top, and you have 2 rows. One is you answer the question, what's the one thing, the one skill in my creative practice that if I practiced it all day, every day, would make me successful as an artist? So I'm a singer-songwriter, so mine is either singing or songwriting. It's really clear. It's usually in the title. So if you're a visual artist, if you're a painter, it's probably painting or a fundamental skill of that, like drawing. So you put that skill in. And then the second one is celebrate. So when it comes to Monday, if you're starting this on a Monday, you choose the amount you want to do. And I recommend, if you have never really ever been consistent, I actually recommend starting with 1 minute. It seems like totally lowballing it, but again, it's not about the amount, it's about the consistency. So 1 minute a day, you have to show up and put pen to paper. And then you go to the next row, which is celebrate. And you tick that box, and everyone loves ticking a box. And the story that you tell yourself is, today I showed up for my art for 1 minute. And even though it may not sound like a lot, it's about celebrating the win of showing up and taking that moment to acknowledge yourself and start to change the internal story of, I'm never consistent with my artwork, to I actually show up every day. So then you do that the rest of the week. And then you have this little card, which is proof to your inner critic and to that story inside of you that says, oh, I showed up 7 days in a row. Let's do that again next week. Then the next week, if you feel consistent that you've done it every single day, you might go for 2 minutes. Whoa, that's like doubled your art practice right there. And then you just slowly build that up as your confidence builds and as the consistency builds. So I hope that's helpful. I hope this helps you think about consistency, what it is, how to bring it into your life and into your creative world, and how it leads to confidence as an artist. So that's one of the 5 artist shifts that I talk about in the free masterclass that I have. If you want to check that out below, it's totally free. Just go to the link and then you can check out that masterclass and find out about all the other shifts of being a consistent, prolific artist. I call it the artist renaissance. It's about really reconnecting to yourself as an artist. So hope that's helpful. If you got any questions, got any comments, I'd love to hear from you about what you do to stay consistent as an artist. Leave them in the comments below. And remember, your art matters. So go and create. See you soon.